Welcome back, everyone. Before we begin today's show, I'd like to tell you about the Legends of Health conference. The conference will now be held online due to the coronavirus situation. This is a great opportunity for all of you around the world to join me live online for my 4 life-changing, life-saving events. There will also be 9 other world-leading health lecturers there to share with you life-changing, life-saving information. My first lecture will be Friday, May the 1st, from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it will be called Mind Over Medicine. On Saturday, May the 2nd, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., my 2-hour lecture, and it will be called How to Thrive and Stay Alive on Planet Earth. And then on Thursday, May the 7th, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., it will be called Inflammation is a Scar Tissue Issue. And then on Saturday, May the 9th, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Creating the Perfect Day for the Perfect Life. For more info, please go to docofdetox.com to the events page. There you will find the link to get your ticket at a greatly discounted price of $97. So join me for the Legends of Health webinar series and enjoy today's show. God bless. Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and today's show is The Holistic Approach to Diabetes with Cheryl Ivaniski. Before we begin, I would like to talk about the Legends of Health conference in Markham, Ontario. This life-changing, life-saving 4-day event takes place from April the 30th to May the 3rd. During this time, I will be delivering 4 comprehensive lectures called How to Thrive and Stay Alive on Planet Earth. The second one will be Inflammation to Cancer, a Scar Tissue Issue. The third, Mind Over Medicine. And the fourth, Create the Perfect Day for the Perfect Life. And then I will also be on a panel with Cheryl, and it'll be called the Panel of Experts. And we will be answering questions for everybody in the audience, okay? My guest today will also be speaking at the conference. Cheryl will be hosting a holistic diabetes workshop and a live Q&A on Thursday, April the 30th at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Listen, everyone, you don't want to miss this. If you can be there, okay, you are going to see and hear some of the most important information that you've heard in decades, okay? For more information, please go to our events page on docofdetox.com. From there, you will be able to purchase discounted tickets. These tickets are regularly $300, and you can get them from us for only $97. And that will be for only the first 60 people that actually buy the tickets. So don't hesitate, okay? So let's begin the show. And before we start the show, I just want to say something. I don't have the exact amount, but I think somebody was saying that 80% of North Americans are pre-diabetic, and I wouldn't doubt it because the type of lifestyles we live and the way we binge on sugar, refined carbohydrates. And you know what? For every extra pound that you put on, that is actually inflammation, okay? People say, well, I'm 10 pounds overweight. Well, you're not really 10 pounds overweight. What you are is you're 10 pounds of maybe water to try to dilute the inflammation that's in your body, or you're maybe 10 pounds of fat because that fat is being created to store those toxins until you know how to bring down the fire, which is the inflammation, until you know how to create the perfect day that you can create perfect health. So let's begin our show, okay? Cheryl is a thought leader in the field of diabetes. She is a wellness authority and a doctor of holistic medicine, acupuncture, natural nutrition, kinesiology, and mind-body medicine, including hypnosis. Cheryl is a 5-time international best-selling author and 2 times global award-winning author. She's an international speaker. And guess what? She is a Guinness World Book record holder. She's also the creator of her signature program, The 7 Habits of Highly Healthy People. Good day, Cheryl. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me, Darrell.
So, listen, well, that's just an honor. I mean, come on. I just read the opening, and listen, it's my honor to have you. So, to start off with, I just want to ask a question. I mean, diabetes, that is such an important topic. I don't believe it's actually talked about enough. And the reality is I think that at one point in everybody's life, I guarantee you, everybody on the planet is pre-diabetic. Okay, so
Agreed.
I want to ask you, who or what inspired you to specialize in the field of diabetes?
That's a loaded question, but thank you so much for asking. I was born into a family of people with diabetes, and my grandparents lived only a few doors away. So, as a Ukrainian family, we did everything together. And I watched from a very young age how diabetes affected my grandmother. And, I could see that she was following all the directives of her primary healthcare providers and doing everything they said because, of course, we cooked and ate as a family. But regardless, you know what? The consequences of diabetes, creep in slowly over time, many cases. But I'll tell you, Darrell, it was one day in my life when I was keynote speaking at a convention center at an annual meeting to about 200 doctors, and something was off. I was just finishing my talk. It was an hour talk. I'd just gotten back to my booth, and here's what happened. My tongue froze. I had cold sweats running down my face and arms, and my knees buckled from under me. And I collapsed to the floor. And later, days later, when I had awoken, only then had I learned that I'd fallen into a diabetic coma and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Can you imagine
Well,
at 30 years of age falling into, unconsciousness, and it's like, wow, your life changes just like that. So I'm passionate about it because I get and I totally understand the frustrations, the struggles, the day in and out, the roller coaster of things, and actually what needs to happen from a preventive point of view so that we can actually, as you said, look at all the people with pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, of which 90% is reversible, and for others that have more of an immune system challenge, as those with type 1 or insulin dependent, look at ways of how you can live a diabetes complication free life. Yeah.
excellent. And you know what? If I can, I'd like to say something. And you know how you fell into unconsciousness?
Yes.
I believe that we are all unconscious of the fact that we are living a toxic, stressful life, and we have not been given the tools on an emotional, physical, or a spirited level to even know how to even deal with this. So we all are unconscious to begin with on
Yeah.
emotional level, and then we
Yeah.
become unconscious on a physical level when you drop to the floor.
I agree with you a million percent. And earlier you talked about inflammation and stress. What we need to do is look at like redefine what stress means on the inside of the body, to our cells, to our organs, to our tissues, and look at exactly what you said. What is happening? What's causing the inflammation? And as a doctor of detox, it's about eliminating all of those toxic inflammatory markers and looking at how to neutralize them so that you can gain power with normalizing blood sugar levels, um, not just blood sugar, but high blood pressure and so many of the things. So you're
Beautiful.
absolutely right. Yeah.
And you know what? And as you know, and as I've been looking at your information, is that you have the same philosophy that we have to start off with the mind, because where the mind goes, the body follows. And some of those most prominent markers are dysfunctional beliefs that we got from our family, because the dysfunctional beliefs, God love your family, that you got along with the good beliefs, but the dysfunctional ones dropped you to the floor. Emotionally, how we treat ourselves, emotionally, how we eat ourselves or we eat, okay, will depend on how hard we hit that floor. And I'll tell you right now, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the coronavirus. The coronavirus isn't going to cause diabetes, but the stress of the coronavirus is definitely going to have a whole bunch more diabetics, and I mean probably hundreds of thousands of people. That will be enough between their diet and the stress to just tip the scales to screw up their insulin levels. How's that?
No, you're a million percent right, because number one, viruses are not friends to the body, and those can be the triggers, exactly what you're talking about, that do put people over the edge. And you know what it's really about, and there's a lot of talk about corona, and what we really need to be talking about are solutions. What are the things that we need to do? What are the solutions we need to look at for ourselves to build our immunity and to protect ourselves from the inside out?
Beautiful.
So yeah, right on the money with that. And mindset, as you said, is number one, because like you said, God bless our families, absolutely. And we don't have to be running today with programs of 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, like that no longer work. We no longer, use dial-up phones. We have modern technology. We've advanced. So our mindset really doesn't need to be playing on 30, 40, 50-year-old programs when we can have our minds, with new programs that we put in them, right?
Absolutely, Cheryl. And you know what, everybody, I know that Cheryl really hits home with this and understands something. And I just want to say this really clear. Only 1 out of 10,000 people, okay, on this planet ever awaken to their full potential, because we have been taught that if you need to start working on yourself mentally, people think emotionally means mentally, that you're mental and you need a straitjacket or you need Prozac. And the reality is, we've been taught to actually run away from our emotions, energy, and motion. And good luck with that one. And the reality is, as long as we're running away from our emotions, as long as we will not take a little mini me and put it on my shoulder and start really observing, not judging, we'll never make those changes. And I know that you are so big on healthy living and healthy lifestyle when it comes to diabetes. Can you tell us why you really push that, that people need to try to find that perfect day, or else what will happen or what won't happen?
Well, I think it's really about, and I love the emotional side of things, because I think things happen for a reason. And I think it's an awakening. I look at things as opportunities. So for people with diabetes, it's like, what is this teaching you? What is the lesson in this? Doesn't matter what immune system challenge you have, but today we're talking about diabetes. So what is the lesson in it? And when you look at probably one of your favorite people, one of my favorite people, and I'm sure that you share this, is Louise Hay. Are you familiar with this
Yes,
with this book?
absolutely, absolutely, love.
So when you're looking at emotions and you're looking at, I just interviewed on my summit a doctor who created the emotion code and body code work, where emotions get trapped inside of ourselves and in different areas where we're vulnerable. And it's with releasing these emotions that, a very big part of it, sets you in a whole new space, because when you're letting go of the old, you're making space for the healing and for the new. So emotions is very important. But in having a perfect day, I look at having a great day. I look at having a whole day. So what I'm looking at, starting the day with, and so many thought leaders do this, the power hour of the day. So I think that sets the tone for the day. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's the first hour and the last hour of the day.
Yep, no, absolutely. So when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at the mindset. I'm looking at, the silence. I'm letting my mind become quiet, so that I can actually hear the silence and what that's speaking to me. It's amazing when silence speaks to you. And actually, that's a chapter that I had written in one of my first books with Jack Canfield, is when silence speaks. In order to get to that space, you need to allow yourself to be still, so that you can allow what you can't hear. It's kind of like being on the phone all the time, being on the cell phones and being busy all the time. If someone else is trying to call you, remember the dial-up days when we had phones and we had to share party lines? Did you have those phones?
Yeah, I did. We did. There was about I think there was about four of us on one party line.
Yeah, same here. So it's funny because people are always trying to call you, but they can't get through because the line's always busy. So in our lives, there's all these messages, there's all these lessons, there's all these, gifts that are available to us. They're always in abundance, ever present, but we're always so busy on the go, go, go and do that we're not allowing ourselves or giving ourselves permission to receive them. And it's not about being a mastermind and having all the information. The information is there. It's who are we, and allowing ourselves to receive it. And I know that that's your mindset too.
Absolutely. And what you were saying before is you'll never have issues in your tissues, otherwise dis-ease, unless you have issues in your mind. And we have to understand something. Everything that is an emotional block must become a physical block if it's not learned how to be dealt with. And that's the things that Cheryl, I can tell in her writings and her lecturing, is giving you those tools, because you got to have those tools. If you don't have those tools, then it's just like the mouse on the wheel. You just keep replaying the same broken record.
Yes, and that's why the power hour is so important of the day, because it sets your tone for the day. So, some people may, and I'm one of them. You're likely one of them that spends time meditating, spends time, in silence, maybe spends time reading. There's different ways that you could use that power hour of the day. And for me, it looks like, what does my day look like as well? And who am I, allowing in my space, and who am I sharing my space with? But it also looks like, what healthy choices am I making throughout the day? And those are the tools that are so important, Darrell, because when we're looking at how we're fueling our minds, what thoughts that we're taking in, and our self-talk, let's look at our self-care. And that includes exactly, what kind of sleep are we getting? How much REM sleep are we getting? In our mornings, how are we fueling our system? And are we taxing it and creating stress for digestion? Are we overfeeding it? What kinds of quality foods are we giving it? And that's what's so cool about all what I'm learning and all that you do, because it's about detoxing, because we're constantly around pollution externally and internally.
Absolutely.
So that's very important.
Yep, your inner terrain is, it decides what's going to live there. It decides what bugs are going to come in. It decides how well your insulin's going to be made and how well you're going to process it. And it decides what your weight's going to be. It decides everything. So between the thought, it's what you think, what you drink, and what you eat.
And it is. And I know that there's so many people with diabetes. And like you said, this virus is triggering hundreds of thousands of people and it doesn't take much to go over that decimeter of a point to be diagnosed as someone with diabetes. Over half of the people with pre-diabetes and diabetes aren't even aware of it.
No, that's why. You know why? Because it's herd mentality. I mean, you know what? If everybody's burping and farting all day, and you were being raised with two parents that burp and fart all day, you'd think it was burping and farting was normal. You'd probably do it outside and do it at school. And you know what? It's like, this is where we are. I mean, if we were to go back 100 years, that's all, just 100 years.
Yes.
And take a look at the way that our great grandparents were. And then we brought our great grandparents here. They think the end of the world was coming, because today, believe it or not, to have diabetes means you're healthy. So, hey, are you healthy? Yes, I am. And then you find out that they have adult onset diabetes, or they have juvenile diabetes. And the reality is that's called healthy, because you're not in the hospital right at this moment. And that's where our mindset is today.
Which is really unacceptable, because crises is not lifestyle, and that's not even mediocrity. That is inviting complication after complication after complication. So when we're looking at the preventive side of things, and we're looking at what can we do, even now with Corona, who's talking about the solutions of what we can do with our sleep, and with our vitamin D, and with our vitamin K, and with the different things that we can take to help boost our own immune systems? So for those with diabetes, and just looking at those who aren't even aware, but know that they're at high risk. I mean, if you're already been told you're borderline or pre-diabetes, you best better know that on the inside of your body, that internal inflammation, one of the first things that you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, is happening at the cellular level, period. It's in motion. Doesn't mean you can necessarily feel it, but it means it's in motion. So that's not your friend. So prevention is the answer. So it's all about the tips, tools, and strategies and combining those together to help normalize blood sugar levels naturally.
That's right. And finding out what triggers you. What are the
Yes.
triggers that cause you to lose it? What causes you anxiety? And guess what? You need to take a really good look at your habits because your habits
Yeah.
make and shape you. What do you do with your free time? What do the people that you hang out with and the family you hang out with, what are they eating? If they're eating things and doing things that are going to cause your diabetes to get worse, then you can't hang around with them. So that's the
Well,
reality. You
yes.
who can do it? You can't sit at a table when everybody's doing the diabetes dance, and
Yeah.
you're going to go there and just, oh yeah, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. I don't need that test.
No, you know what? It's difficult, but I will tell you, like in my own situation with my family, the great news is I grew up. Thank goodness, I grew up with a family who were organic farmers. So that was a really big bonus. Very physical people, people of the land. And that was a really great influence for me in my life. Very active physically, all ideal weights because, of course, they were so physically working. And what's interesting, as you mentioned, as times change, people get older, eating habits, become more adaptive to what's available, maybe a little less aware of what's necessarily good for you. But for me, and this is a great little tip for our listeners today, is when you're going to a family get together, whatever it is, Thanksgiving, Easter, or birthday, just visiting on a Friday or Sunday or whatever it is, I don't know. I take things with me. So I will prepare because who doesn't love mashed potatoes, let's say? But you know what? If you've never tried mashed cauliflower, you don't know what you're missing. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. And if I can say something about what you said earlier, and
Yeah.
that's this. Believe it or not, if your family were farmers, that means they were doing a lot of dairy, which is totally inflammatory, and they were doing probably animal products, which we know is inflammatory. But the reality is they were moving physical all the time.
All the time.
Today, we sit, we don't. And when we exercise, we actually have to make a plan to do our exercise because we don't move anymore. And the
Right.
reality is that did you know this that um, back just 75 years ago, there would be three traumatic moments where we were really fired up with the adrenaline being pumped into our bodies, which is totally acidic because of stress and fear, three times a month. Today, it's 17 times a day because media has caused us to fear every bloody moment. So people are
Yeah.
continually dumping adrenaline and cortisol into their body. And the reality is when you dump this stuff and you're not running from an animal or you're physically working to burn this stuff off, it
Yeah.
eats you up. And that's another reason why diabetes is so bad today.
Well, the cortisol is that is a main culprit. That is not our friend. That is for sure. And so, I can't agree with you more. Stress, and I in another book that I co-authored with Les Brown, our world's number one motivational speaker. It's all about stress, but being able to identify it so you can interrupt it, like enhancing your consciousness and awareness, and then stress busters to be able to, over time, because it takes time, to be able to diffuse that. And so you don't react, you respond. Stress is a reaction, a response is managing it. So today there's so much stress and really beyond stress, burnout, the burnout in so many areas. And so that's so important because when you're burning out, again, you're affecting all the interior cells of your body and causing that inflammation. So yes, it's really all about what are the things that we can do each day, and in small bite size. Paris wasn't built in a day, Rome wasn't built in a day, but small step size, and over weeks, the amazing difference that we can see. And I know you have your detox programs, and you have different programs with lengths of time. And really, when we flush out causative agents and the bacteria and bugs that are not our friends, then we make room for what is our friends. Like a simple swap out today, actually, when I was doing my breakfast, is a lot of people like smoothies. Well, that's great, have them, but are you using kefir, or are you using a full vegetable? Are you using chlorella and spirulina in your veggie drink or greens? Like, be conscious and aware of what you're putting into them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd like to sidetrack for just a second and ask you, because I have seen this so often, and that's where dairy is the tipping point that actually causes juvenile diabetes in children. And I've seen it happen so often, and especially lately. So I think it's not just the dairy. I think it could be, of course, other factors because parents are getting more stressed out because they're into the media more, and I think there's more EMF, there's more blue light, and everything. But can you tell me about? Do you see the same thing with dairy, that there's a connection there?
Well, it's interesting because back when, and I'm going back quite a long time, three of the major conversations was a sheep's liver fluke found in milk, virus, and a causative stressful, that maybe not necessarily a virus, but a causative stressful situation. And of course, other risk factors, which, as we know, would be obesity, which would be hormone imbalance during pregnancy, which would be physical inactivity, things like that. But when it comes to dairy, yeah, I can't agree more. There's so much research that talks about it. I was just reading another two books and looking at the causative agents, and they do go back to dairy. Yeah, I agree with that.
And everything stems back to inflammation, whether it's emotional or whether it's physical, because
Yes.
inflammation causes the water retention, causes the weight gain. Inflammation causes actually the damage to your cells, because inflammation is just like a forest fire. A forest fire is going to go in and it's just going to turn everything into charcoal, where inflammation will take your tissue cells and make them into beef jerky, because they'll just suck the life right out of them. So,
Well, and in these days compared to, the days of our grandparents, but today there's so many more environmental factors and so many more antibiotics and so many more things, like you were saying, the electromagnetic pollution. We've got so many external factors that influence things as well. But, the great substitutes for our listeners, if they'd like to know some friendly substitutes for dairy or milk, would be the unsweetened almond milk, which can also be used in smoothies and in dips and many other things, as well as rice milk. I'm not a big rice milk fan because I don't like the taste, but I don't like the high glycemic index of what rice provides either. But the unsweetened almond milk is certainly a great substitution for regular dairy if that's something that people wanted to use and try. And there's also flavors, but I like the original unsweetened.
beautiful. You talk about taking back 100% responsibility for your health. What does this mean to you, and what should it mean for our listeners today?
Okay, so taking 100% responsibility is huge. And what that means is exactly what it says. There's not a 1% difference that you can abdicate responsibility for yourself. You're the best person who knows your body. And as you become more in tune with your body actually speaks to you. You need to start to listen to it and raise your awareness, because it actually guides you. I can tell you sometimes 3 hours before I might go into a low sugar, based on exactly how I'm feeling, because I'm in tune with my body and I take responsibility for that. So taking responsibility means no excuses. It means not tomorrow. It means today. It means not counting on someone else or even a superior or a team of doctors for the answers. You can take the information, you can put it in front of you, you can contemplate with it, but at the end of the day, it means making choices for yourself. So it means you standing up for yourself and making decisions based on how things make you feel.
Good. So you need to be your own doctor. You need to take a mirror and mirror what you're doing and make sure that you're on top of yourself consciously. Otherwise, in the present moment, because if we're not in
And
the present moment, we can't take responsibility for anything. Right?
Absolutely. And that goes even further. Okay. So it goes beyond not making excuses for this, that, or blaming others and yada, yada. What it does include is it looks at investigating and researching what else is possible. So it means putting yourself out there and taking responsibility to find out what does work for you. And yeah, is it work? Sure, it is. And you're worth it. Your health is worth it. Your lifestyle, your future, your quality of life is worth it. So it's up to you to do the research. It's up to you to go and do the work. I was traditionally trained as a dental hygienist and as a public health servant when I first graduated from college. And I started my first coaching programs over 35 years ago. And once I was not diagnosed with just one organ blowout, but another gland, because I also was diagnosed at the same time with Hashimoto's disease. So, when you don't have a trace of thyroxine, literally a very small trace, and no trace of any insulin, that's a double whammy at one time. So, when you're looking at a grim future and you're seeing what that has done to family members and other family and friends, for me, I took a stand, and that was taking responsibility. I took a stand. No, that things don't need to be like that. And yeah, we might not have the answers today, but we're going to go figure them out, and watch me. And
Yeah,
that's taking responsibility.
yeah, and I think that first responsibility is to stop terrorizing ourselves on an unconscious level so we don't go unconscious.
Well, and there's, people go, why me? And there's victim mode. And you go through, the stages of why me and being angry. Geez, I do everything right. I grew up this, I'm active. And, you got to put all of that over here and look at today and look at moving forward. And so what's not here is what works. So let's go out, and what training do we need? Who do we need to talk to? What do we need to explore? And you just go and you do it. And you spend a lifetime, if you're a lifelong learner like myself and yourself, it's something that you welcome, it's something that you relish in, because it's something that's just you. And so through the last 30 years, and looking especially at the last 25 years of, because 25 years ago there was nothing preventive available in diabetes, and it's not that it's so available today, but you got to go out and try everything yourself and see what works, and work with your clients, and do your own research in a way, just like how they discovered insulin, right? Like
Yeah,
how they discover many things. But then you start putting two and two together, and then you start to see what reactions or responses you get, and then you start to get flows of things, and then you see normalized blood sugar levels, Daryl, and then you start to see, wow, these things are working, and then this helps complement this by 30%. And then you start to get a formula in, what works and what doesn't. And then you start to live a diabetes free lifestyle, or a diabetes complication free lifestyle. Doesn't mean it's not there. It means that you're not a victim of it, because you have power with it. It doesn't have power over you.
very good. Why don't you tell us who do you help and how do you help people?
Okay, great. I had a practice for many, many, many years live right on Yonge Street in Toronto. In fact, some of our mutual friends were colleagues with me with that clinic. And I was training health professionals in preventive and holistic diabetes wellness along the way, and as well as seeing clients live in practice. And recently, and with our great online world of technology, we've been able to bring programs live. So we have coaching programs for people with diabetes and pre-diabetes, as well as their caregivers. And now we're launching, actually at the conference that we were talking about, we're launching the Academy of Holistic Diabetes Education. So we now have professional designation for people who want to expand and grow their practices and add to what they're doing, so that they can go out and be the powerhouses and the experts in their local areas to help people with diabetes. So we have professional education, and we have public education with online courses,
Wonderful.
Facebook groups, and live workshops like the conference that we're both going to be attending.
So, how can people get in touch with you?
So people can get in touch with me at holisticdiabetessolutions.com. And they can get in touch with me also at CherylIvaniski.com. And that's CherylIvaniski.com. I'll send you the links.
Beautiful. And can you also tell us maybe some of the books you've written, where they might be able to find them, or anything else that you might have forgot?
Sure. There's a number of books that I've written, and I've been honored to co-write with some of the world's top thought leaders, like you had mentioned. And they can be found on my website at CherylIvaniski.com. And I think they're also available on the holisticdiabetessolutions.com as well. You can go to Amazon and find them. You can get book bundles with us at our live conferences and even online. So that's great. But there's a really cool upcoming book. Would you like to hear it here first?
Let's do it.
Okay, and maybe I'll talk to you about this. There's an upcoming book that is great. I did a wonderful summit earlier this year and been interviewing many people over time. And we're having a book compilation where everyone in their area of expertise is contributing to the Holistic Diabetes Solutions Volume 1. So our Holistic Diabetes Solutions to Diabetes Wellness is something that's coming down the pipeline. So that's exciting. So look out for that. And at the conference, people can actually pre-register for it, Darrell.
Beautiful.
So
And
that'll be great. Now, I think the one thing that I'd like to leave all of the listeners with is, if you fear that you may be at risk of or even have prediabetes, or you've been told that you have diabetes, but you're frustrated because you're not getting the education. You might be getting blood tests and blood work, but you don't really have the know-how. You don't really have the steps to know what to do each day in each situation that you have. And if you want a step-by-step blueprint, and if you really want to normalize your diabetes, you know what? Come to us, because we can help you.
there it is. So,
Yeah.
what do you see for the future? Where do you see, and honest, be honest here now, where do you see us going? Can I say what I think, and then I'm going to pass it over to you?
Please.
This is going to get a lot worse. This is going to get a lot worse. And why? I think that we are so heavily programmed that until our life is totally being threatened by severely by disease, we don't wake up. And I think the biggest program we have is not caring or loving ourselves, and looking in all the wrong places when we should be going inside to do it. So I think, and you have to understand, I'm an optimist. I really believe that things will turn around, but they never turn around until there's tons of loss of life, because people are so heavily programmed from the minute they get here. There's my thing. Tell me what you think.
Okay, so I agree with you on the one side, and then I have something to add on the other.
Sure.
Okay, so look what it takes to get our attention. It takes comas, it takes amputations, it takes heart attacks. If you're lucky enough to survive one, since most don't, look at all the things that it takes to get our attention, to call ourselves to ourselves. And most of us are not comfortable in that place. However, here's what I think. I think there's so much crises. I think there's so much frustration, and I think there's so much pain that on the other side, I think that people are now asking, our general public with these issues, they're now asking the right questions. They're asking, so where can we seek this help? Why isn't there anything available? What are you going to do about it? And so they're asking the questions. So I think that their awareness is rising, because I know that they know that that's not normal and it doesn't have to happen to them. I think it's going to be a collaboration of proactive, preventive mindsets that want to make an impact in the world and make truly the world a healthier place, that will collaborate and come together and make it known where people can find them. And then once people get a taste of that, they will gravitate from there. So where do I see this going? I see, as long as we make things available for people and give them a clear path to find us, that they're going to start to see great results. And I think this is going to be a worldwide thing. I can see making policy in countries with the UN. I can see making academies and infiltrating into colleges and universities across not just this country or North America, but around the world. So I'm a big optimist, and I think things need to be simple, they need to be easy, but they need to be clear and proven. And I also believe people need choices. People right now need to know that we're redefining diabetes, and people right now need to know that a diabetes-free life is the lifestyle they deserve and that they can have. That's what I believe. And I think when they start to believe that, because they have access to the information, that will change things.
I totally agree. I totally agree with everything you said. And you know what? We all must just move forward and we must take back our power, and it's got to happen on a personal level. And when we do that and we find out that we really do have that power, we become the light, okay, that we were looking for. But then
Yes,
we're the inspiration for our family and for our friends. And that
yes,
is where it starts. It all starts at the grass levels. So people do
yes.
not wait for change, be the change, right? That is so important. Cheryl, what do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I agree, and I also agree that, once you recognize you are this light, then you can like stand up, speak up, and shine.
And
You
have a
can let
lot
that
of
light
fun.
shine.
And you'll have a lot of fun too, Cheryl. I mean, think
Oh,
about it.
sure.
When you took back your mind and you made it your mind, you mastered your mind, your day just became brighter. And when something became a crisis, it wasn't a crisis anymore. It was staying connected to your breath and then taking personal action if needed. And if not, we mind our own business.
Well, that's a good point because that's when we recognize we have choices. We don't have to buy into this because guess what? We get to buy into this. So don't think so. And yes, please. We get the choice.
Beautiful.
I
So,
just think we don't. I just don't think we think in that in that brain space. So I think if we think that everything is a choice, and if we ask ourselves, as you would say, if you choose health or a disease, which would you rather have? And that's a no-brainer. So it's people like us that say, "Let us show you how."
there it is. Now,
There it is.
if I could, I'd like you to talk about what you're going to talk about in Markham. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about what you're going to be doing in Markham, because we have lots of people always calling in going, can you tell me, can you, when you have the speakers on, can you have them talk a little bit about what they're going to be talking about and what their structure is? So if you could do that, that'd be great.
Well, thank you. Sure. Well, yes, on the Thursday, which is the opening day, which is April 30th, it's great because we're having a full day of the Holistic Diabetes Workshop. So I'm actually going to be introducing many speakers. I think there's going to be 5 speakers that are coming that day. And some of those speakers are flying in from the United States, from across Canada. Some are going to join us with our new technology via Zoom. And what we're talking about are solutions. So we're talking about the solutions to diabetes wellness. So that's a 9 to 5 day. One of my guest speakers, who's becoming a very nice friend, Dr. Joel Furman, is joining us. And he'll be taking the stage for 90 minutes and talking all about the nutritarian, talking about the nutrition, even talking about some, how to normalize higher blood pressures and looking at heart health. And then we're actually doing a panel Q&A just with him. And then we're going to invite everyone to bring their burning questions so that we can answer them. And we're launching something very special that day as well. So it's a full jam-packed day. We'll be talking about type 3 diabetes. We'll be talking about natural circulation therapies. Oh, and mindset. There's going to be so much. It's going to be so great. I can't wait. I can't wait. You're there every day and we're on a panel together too.
Well, that sounds dangerous. Okay.
Not for us.
I know, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Anyways, yeah, it's going to be great. There's a lot of very powerful speakers there. People who have totally done their homework, and
Yes.
they have a lot of years behind them, and that's really important because we're not just talking about people with information. We're talking about people that have lived it, and lived in the trenches with with their patients, so they'll be able to actually be able to give guidance to everyone. And that's the thing. We will be actually doing consultations for people as well, so you can come and ask your questions. So this is not like a regular type of lecture you go to and you're going to be, it's about all about product, and you're going to get lost in all this other stuff. It's all about you. It's all about asking the right questions. So bring your questions and you'll get these answers, because it's all about creating that perfect day from the moment you rise until you close your eyes. Cheryl, what do you think?
I think that's great. I want to add one thing. Can I do that?
Okay,
Thank you.
of course.
So
You can add 2 things or 3 things.
Three things. No, one thing.
Okay.
One thing I want to share with people is there is a live TV studio that we're having at the conference on the Thursday and throughout the event. But at that live studio, I'm going to be doing interviews of not just our up to 30 speakers who are the grandfathers and, like you said, the people have been in the trenches forever. And you know how I explain that? I explain that as the Robert Redfords, the Clint Eastwoods, the Brad Pitts, and the Barbara Streisands of the Hollywood world. And I talk about the legends who are speaking at this conference. You cannot get a more amazing lineup. Would you agree?
That's what I tell everyone is that there hasn't been a conference that I know of like this in Canada ever.
No, because you've got Colin Campbell, you've got yourself, you've got the Clements, you've got so many speakers that are
Ralph
the
Moss.
equivalent of what the Hollywood legends are.
Yeah.
You cannot not be there because the richness of the information is just so valuable. So in this TV studio, we're going to be interviewing the speakers, but we're going to be interviewing the guests and getting their feedback and their testimonies and what they loved about it, what they want to hear more of. So everyone can come and everybody has a chance to participate. So I think that's one of the most exciting things at the conference too.
Well, I think you're one of the most exciting things at the conference, Cheryl.
Thank
You have such a beautiful energy and you've put so much out there, and with your summit, and you've opened up so many eyes, and that's what you do. And you are a shining light. And I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me on the show today. It's been a pleasure from meeting from the beginning and getting to this point. And this has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Cheryl. And now we'll see you in Markham, right? And is there anything one little thing you might want to leave our listeners with?
You know what? Self-care is important, and you matter, and your health matters. So take it up a notch and start being more aware of what you're doing so that you know and that your body's getting the health that it needs.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl, for being on the show. Thanks for joining me today. And I want to thank all our listeners for joining us as well. And don't forget, everyone, every Monday you can join me for my Doc Talk live Q&A, where I will answer all your questions live from YouTube, Facebook, and Intercom. When watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe below and make sure you click the bell to enable notifications so that you never miss a show. And understand something, everybody. All our shows and our Q&As are time-stamped, okay? And they're put up on YouTube, so you can go right to YouTube and you can go right to where your question is or the question that you wanted the answer, and you're going to find it right there. So that's really important with Q&As, because I know that time is something that sometimes we don't have a lot of. So also, if you wish to listen to the audio version of any of our shows, you can find them on iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud. Again, I'd like to thank Cheryl for being on my show, okay? And I want to thank all my listeners for making the show possible. And understand something. Make sure that you always question, and definitely always question authority, and always question yourself, all right? Because understand something. Your prominent beliefs rule you. They rule your day every day, okay? So don't be afraid to erase and replace your beliefs with empowering self-love, self-care beliefs, and take your power back. God bless everyone. Have a beautiful day, and never forget, 3, 2, 1, you got this. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.